are there any key like points of growth for the company that stand out to you, like a moment where you realized, your sort of first 1,000 users on the website, or a first big posting from a Formula One team, those kind of moments in the history of race stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think when we hit 10,000 registered candidates, that was a big moment, because I didn't know how big it would be in terms of actual candidates. I think we're up to about 35,000 now. When we processed 50,000 job applications, then that was quite a moment. And as you say, when you get the Formula One teams ringing you up after hassling them for years, and the different teams and the bigger teams, and then they start ringing you up and asking you to either list some vacancies for them, or even better, headhunt for some roles that are commercially sensitive, so they don't want to appear even on a job board, because then the other teams will get an idea of the area of the car that they're working on. So there's quite a few moments along the way that I opened a beer that night and thought, that was a pretty good idea all those years ago. And it's, as I say, it's just a pleasure, and it is a pleasure to help the next generation through. And I know it's difficult, and all the guys, if you're wanting to get into motorsport and they're currently doing engineering or formula students or something, you just got to stick at it. You got to keep it, get in there, stick at it, keep ringing people up, keep trying to make contacts on LinkedIn, and get some hands-on experience. And then once you realise the area of the car that interests you, or the area of motorsport, I should say, that interests you, then get stuck in and find people that are doing that role and ask them for help, ask them for more details about what they do and how they got there. And you make a bit of a pain for yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you. You've got, I haven't got the time to help 3,000 students a year find a job or something, but I can give general advice out. And I think, when you go for your job, the problem I have a bit of an issue with universities, because they kind of oversell the dream a little bit, and I think it's their business model that they need bums on seats and they need their X £1,000 a year off the students. And they're kind of overpromising, and a lot of students come out at the end of it and think, right, here we go, straight into a big team in my dream job. And it rarely happens like that. You really need to try and get some experience whilst you're doing your course, and whilst instead of going to parties every night, just leave it a couple of nights and try and get away and get some hands-on experience at weekends with some teams, whether it's at a track or whether it's at their workshop. You will make contacts once you've made some. It always feels, people said to me, it feels like a bit of a gentleman's club when you're trying to get into motorsport from the outside. Sure. And in a way, I suppose it is. It's becoming much more of a ladies' club as well now, I'm pleased to say, which is absolutely right. But once you're in, you're in. And one thing leads to another. It really does. And I'm sure other industries are similar. I'm sure being a lawyer is a bit like that, or being an accountant or whatever else. But motorsport is a tough one to break into. But just be resilient and be brave, because once it does open up, it's absolutely awesome. And I don't think there can be many jobs that feel like when you win a race weekend and you're part of that team. There can't be many other jobs that give you that feeling, I don't think. So absolutely. Hang in there, because it's worth it.
And would you say that point of access to the industry, would you say that's the kind of biggest misconception that you come into contact with? People saying, I just feel like I can't get my foot in the door, when actually, it's interesting. We spoke to, a couple of weeks ago on the show, a photographer, Jamie Price, and he noted that on photography, he sees a similar theme in that there are events around you, there are racetracks around you. You can just go and get experience. Taking pictures there might be especially an easy start, because you can just go as a fan. You don't have to ask anyone. But that same level of access, applying that for engineers, it is maybe the top level roles are going to be harder than you think to get. But on that grassroots level, it is possible. And I think that stood out to me as a really important message. And I think, for people listening, students in similar positions, that idea that you really can go out and capture it, and you're kind of more powerful than you think you are, almost, when you're looking to develop yourself. There'll be opportunities that you don't know what you don't know, I suppose. Like, you don't know what opportunities you're missing out on until you go out there and look for them. Are there some other misconceptions beside that you see, or is that the main one?
I think the main frustration for me is the lack of a decent system to help the students through. Because I get it in the neck quite a bit, saying I can't get experience and so on. Well, it's not really my role. I'd say it's more down to the educators that are preparing people for this marketplace. And I do keep meaning to, now that I've spoken to you, I'm going to have another go at this, because I think it'd be really good to get universities tied in with teams if it's in a local area or not, to, when I say sponsor, I don't mean necessarily financially, but sponsor some of the students along through their studies, right? So if you can make a link with, well, where are you, Lancaster? There's not a lot up here, is there? But you've got M Sport, not too far away. So imagine if you could have links with M Sport so that your students that are interested in motorsport or doing Formula Show or whatever can do factory tours, and and even to the point where they could interview some of the students or even first years if they're doing engineering or something relevant, and try and keep in touch with them over the period of the studies. And I just feel like we need stronger links between the educators and the industry, because I'm worried that the educators don't always educate for how the industry is right now. They tend to educate for how it was 10 years ago, and things move so fast in motorsport. They need to keep up. So now that you reminded me, I'm going to get back on some universities and see if we can't try and get something together to make life a little bit easier for students to break into the industry, and for the employers to fine tune the next generation that they want. So there's no point teaching them about that, because that's we don't use it anymore. You need to be teaching them about this, and it could be software, it could be lots of different things, lots of different processes that come out now that just weren't invented a few years ago. So it's keeping up to date with them, but this link between the two, I think needs some work on it, and I will try. It's probably not necessarily my job. I think I'm going to have a go at Motorsport UK as well. They should probably be involved in this and see if we can't build bridges,
Absolutely.
so that not just waiting until they've graduated, you know what I mean? So that whilst you're studying, you've got some sort of links with teams to make it a little bit easier to access that. And even if it means coming in at the weekends and brushing the floor for a bit, but just being involved and soaking it up and seeing what goes on, because that'll lead you to find your passion with an area of motorsport that you can dive into. And then once you've found that, honestly, life's so much easier when you've got a target to aim for then, haven't you? Whatever it is, whether it's dampers or social media, if you've got that target to aim for, it makes life a lot easier.
Absolutely. And then, especially with the way we're seeing Formula One grow and change, the teams expanding, I think it goes back to that thing about access to the industry. The opportunities are increasing. It may be at the same time the level of applicants are increasing. I'm sure you may have seen recently, even maybe over the last 5 years, the drive to get into something like Formula One, just with its overall increase in popularity and viewership around the world, it must be associated with some sort of increase in applicants on the first level side. Do you think that how do I phrase the question, that's the biggest mistake people make, is that we spoke a little bit earlier about the grassroots access. If teams were able to sponsor, I think it would just be like a scholarship, right? Like a team would say, we have this role at the end. It would also kind of help their branding within the university, because they could say, wow, look at this team. They're helping out the university, and you can go watch them in Rally Monte Carlo if it's M Sport or all these different events. That partnership could be really, really valuable, and also could extend beyond the UK in countries where access, it could be an even bigger problem. People don't have those local racetracks.
Sure. That
scholarship program, could be really powerful, because it is something that other industries do. Like lawyers, I have friends that are doing law degrees. They get approached by maybe it's investment banking firms, and they'll say, finish your degree, get this grade, you have that guaranteed job. There's no structure for that in motorsport at the moment. Is that the idea?
Yeah, just to try and smooth the passageway and make sure that both parties get what they want. So it's not totally weighted towards the student. We're just trying to help them out in their studies, but it's also a benefit for the team or the company to say, well, actually, we're really short on wiring harness builders. Would any be interested? Have you got any electronics students that would be interested in doing something like that? And the electronics guys have probably never even thought about it. But if you put it in front of them, I think, oh, right, okay, yeah, that'd be interesting. Well, okay, so M Sport maybe aren't going to give you any money, but what they'll do is more than that. They'll give you a helping hand. They'll give you can go up and shadow people that are already building them and see what it's all about, for it, just as an example. And I think it's invaluable, that it's contacting the industry that you need, that you're about to go into, and it's almost too late once you graduated. Because I remember going to I think it was at Cranfield, they do a masters in motorsport, which is quite well thought of, and at the end of the year, of course, they do a presentation about the project they've been working on. I always get invited down. There's some F1 teams there and so on. And I was talking to one guy from Mercedes, and he said, we started coming at the start of the year now to poach the best candidates, because they've often gone by the end of the year. I think, bloody hell, they're fighting over these guys because it's quite a hard course to get on with, so they take the best of the best, kind of thing. And you just think, well, okay, so if that's working for that master's course, why couldn't it work for degree courses as well? And if your guys go up to M Sport and they have a chat with each of you, for example, that are interested in that, and say, what area are you interested in? Somebody happens to say whatever it might be that they're looking for. Oh, right, well, we need to stay in touch with you then, because we could have something for you at the end of your studies if you're going that route. And there's nothing particularly formal about it necessarily. It's just a holding hand along the way, because I feel so sorry for these guys who've spent all this money with the university and they've come out and they've, okay, they've got a decent degree. They might have a 2-1 or a first degree in either mechanical engineering, motorsport engineering, or whatever it might be. And yet the universities haven't got any contact with industry, or very little, and don't put any effort in to making the most of that. Some do, don't get me wrong. There are some that are pretty good, but the majority, for me, don't do that. And
yeah, and
I'd like to hold them to account, to be honest, because they're the ones that make all the bloody money out of it.
And it's all about, I think, I wanted to touch on protecting the idea of a meritocracy, because I'm sure you will have seen as a junior Formula driver, it extends to even junior Formula nowadays, that they can lose a bit of that meritocracy, and it can become having a big budget. You spoke about not having the budget to continue in your racing career. On that employment side for jobs in motorsport that aren't driving, feels like that idea of a meritocracy is protected a bit better, because there's an element of access to education, that being a problem, but more so opening up that job market in the way that you have done with race stuff is about allowing those best candidates to rise to the top. Did you see that pattern at all as a junior driver and want to bring that idea of meritocracy forward and allow it to be the best it could be?
Yeah, absolutely, and again, it depends on the role within the team. Because for me, I mean, it's changed a little bit now, but there was always 2 different routes that you take, really. So if you were really just interested in being a race mechanic, which I did start off as that, and I loved it, to be quite honest, you don't need a degree or a high level of education really to do that. What you need is hands-on experience. If you want to be a data engineer or a design engineer, obviously you need a really good level of formal education for that, and that's quite specific for that role. And those are the guys obviously that are finding it hard because they've studied for all these years, and they're probably really good at what they do, but they just can't break into the industry. So there's that side of it. The other guys don't tend to have that problem, if I'm honest. The guys that are coming up through the rankings are being the guys that are doing the pit stops or what have you, they naturally just work their way up. And it's interesting because they tend to go up through the formulas like the drivers did. So, I'd have a mechanic helping me out in my Formula Ford, and he'd come with me to my 2000 and to my F3 because you got that relationship with him. So, without realising it, you were bringing them up through the formula as well as yourself. And I think that still happens to a degree, because I think that for the race mechanics, will start on Formula Ford or something, and then think, well, I'd like something a bit more than this, so I'd like to get into GP2 or whatever. And once you're in GP3, GP2, then F1's only a step away in terms of the mechanics and so on. And having said that, quite a few of the mechanics do now have degrees because the car's getting that flipping complicated, I think. But there's still a lot working their way up through the system, and it's interesting how they're then combined, because you have this, you have the mechanics now talking to the engineers, and that dynamic interests me. When I watch it in the pit garage and you see how everyone gets on, and everyone has to get on. There's no doubt about it when you're when you're part of a team. But that dynamic's really interesting, and it's the passionate guys and the good guys that always make it. And and having a positive attitude is absolute prerequisite. I think it is to life in general, but I think it really is in motorsport. And you see the guys come in that are really on it, and they've got a fire in the belly for it, and they enthuse everybody around them. My wife divides everybody up between radiators and drains, and I think she's probably right. Some people just drain all the fun out of a room as soon as they walk in, and other people exude warmth, and that's what you be the radiator, because people will then come to you and respect what you're doing and want to have you around, and before you know it, you'll be top of the game. And you've put the work in, you've got your education, you just getting your experience, working hard, being that positive guy with lots of enthusiasm for what you're doing, and inspiring those around you, because it's pretty tough, I'm saying that, and 10:30 at night when you've been working for 15 hours on this damn car that you can't quite fix. It takes quite a strong character to still be really positive about that and keep going and get it fixed. But if you're all in it together, the team spirit is fantastic. And I've certainly never experienced anything in the other industries I've seen. They've got that team spirit. I remember lying underneath I think it was a former 3000 car that I was working on when I was a mechanic, and there's this wealthy the guy had sent his son over to drive in the UK, scenario with lots of money and everything. And the car, he kept crashing the bloody car, and we were sick of this. And in the middle of the night, and we're putting another gearbox in it, and I'm underneath, and I think, damn it, I need an 11 milli spanner for this bolt. And as I put my hand up, thinking I'm going to have to get out again from under the car, all of a sudden, an 11 milli spanner appeared in my hand. Because the guy working with me knew exactly what I was about to do and exactly what I was having to take off. And there's such a fantastic team spirit with the race teams, and I'd advocate working anywhere in motorsport, but if you can at least have a session in the pit lane so you understand the pressures there under. So even if you're designing things at a factory, they're going to get sent to the pit lane. It'd be really good to have that understanding of the pressures that they're under at the pit lane end.